It seems that most people are conditioned to perceive reality in a way that serves as a useful fiction, but is not the ultimate absolute truth. And that useful fiction being that organisms are truly separate, independent agents from other organisms. That reality is truly dualistic and divided. We mistake the apparent boundaries between forms to be real absolute boundaries. And the more absolute truth would be that reality as a whole is completely and utterly undivided, yet it's appearing as distinctions. It's appearing as all beings equally. Humans seem to have the tendency to treat life as a competition. We talk about ourselves as humans being the superior species to other species, especially the ones that have now gone extinct. We treat it as if there's a competition, and in a competition there's a winner and a loser. Now, my suggestion is that this is only a useful fiction, that reality has this way of disassociating itself into an apparently separate form to play this game with itself. So there isn't necessarily separate beings that are each alive. It's more true to say that all there is an aliveness, one complete, undivided aliveness, which is appearing to disassociate itself into separate forms so that it can play this game with itself to grow, to elevate, to evolve. So in the same way that this one whiteboard is appearing as multiple drawings, yet it's still just one whiteboard, this undivided aliveness is appearing as divisionary lines, it's appearing as multiple beings, yet they're not truly separate beings. So when this particular person dies, there isn't actually a separate entity here that is going to die. There isn't actually going to be someone that is lost. It's this aliveness, which is merely ceasing to appear as this particular form. It's this aliveness which will take a new shape. So there isn't actually a gaining or a losing that's taking place. It's simply the changing of forms. It's as if two hands are playing a game of chess with each other. And they're two hands of the same person. But in order for it to be a convincing game, a worthwhile game where each hand does its best without holding back, each hand would have to forget that it is of the same body, of the same person. It would have to forget that to believe that it's truly separate from its opponent. And so life, or this aliveness, has this way of forgetfulness so that it can play this game with itself. And this is what is happening all around us. Any being that is alive, that's having some kind of experience, it's ultimately the same essence of aliveness. The normal response that we may have from, say, a rabbit getting eaten by a wolf is to say, oh, this poor rabbit. We act as if a separate being was truly lost when it was killed by a wolf. I'm not saying that this response needs to change. What I'm merely suggesting is that it's not a reflection of an absolute truth. What I'm suggesting is that when the rabbit gets eaten by the wolf, there isn't actually a separate being there that is lost. All it is this undivided aliveness changing shapes, appearing as different forms. So I'm not saying that this useful fiction of perceiving life as if it's truly separate and fragmented needs to change, because especially within a society, in order for it to run fluidly, that's a useful fiction. That doesn't need to change. But what can change is one can perceive that as merely a useful fiction while not mistaking that useful fiction to be an absolute truth. So we can hold them both at the same time. We don't have to confuse the useful fiction to be the ultimate truth in itself. It's only useful, it's only convenient for particular organisms to survive. And language does play a part in why we take this to be the case, that reality is full of multiple beings that are truly separate from one another. It's not solely the reason, but it perpetuates this notion because we have different words, different classifications for particular forms, particular organisms. It's because we have the word rabbit, and that's obviously a different word from the word wolf, that we then act as if there's a real boundary there, that there's a real, truly separate classification. This is only a useful fiction for us to try to understand reality. But the ultimate truth is reality doesn't fit into our conceptual boxes of knowing. It's only useful for us to try to convey information. And that conveying of information is limited, and it's based on arbitrary delineations. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't convincing that there are truly separate beings. I understand how it seems to be the case because there are distinct features with this particular form as opposed to this one. But the useful fiction, the arbitrary delineation, is when we believe that the boundary to this form is truly bordered off from its environment and truly bordered off from this other being. It's the sense of otherness. It's confusing that apparent reality to be the ultimate reality that perpetuates this notion of duality, which, again, is a useful fiction to act as if that's the case. But in the ultimate sense, it's not truly fragmented. It's not truly divided. Reality does not fit into our conceptual boxes of knowing. The colloquial understanding of life is that we'll point to a particular being, a particular individual that seems to be animated, and we'll say something like, this individual is alive, as if it's being alive as an activity. And strictly speaking, this isn't really true. All there is this aliveness. It's the unchanging isness, which doesn't really come or go. It just takes different shapes. It appears as different forms. So it's not that there is a being who becomes alive. All there is the aliveness appearing as this or appearing as that. So reality is this undivided aliveness appearing as everything. There's no such thing as truly separate beings who are each individually being alive. There's only this aliveness. It's all sameness appearing as this convincing illusion of separateness.